Hi, my name is Tini and I'll be doing a short presentation for Pharma-Cure Research. So we will be looking at these areas for our short presentation. So Pharma-Cure Research is a company, an MNC company, which is currently based in Singapore, but it runs its operation internationally with 25 other countries. So it envisions itself to be a trusted leader in the making of a better intercommunication center. Its mission is to support patients, healthcare providers, and to improve patient care. So, what does Pharma-Cure Research actually do? Right, so what it does is basically to collect patients' information. This will include data like name, date of birth, medical reports, financial information, and the list just goes on. So how they execute this is by having helplines for patients to either call in or send messages via WhatsApp or emails. So Pharmacare Research will then transcribe this into their portals. Now this data is then transferred, shared with all the other relevant hospitals and doctors or healthcare centers, and for those patients who also needs financial aids from NGOs and respective government healthcare departments. All right, now we will all, if you look at it, we will notice that this manual transferring of data could be a potential risk. Let's look into the ethical concept and how to mitigate this. Right. We'll be using this Molecular Center's ethical toolkit to identify and mitigate the potential data risk. So this toolkit comprises of 7, but we'll be using 2 of them in this case. All right, so we will be using tool number 1, which is the ethical risk sweeping. So this is recommended to identify and mitigate potential ethical risks in data management practices. So what it does is it also helps to sweep away potential ethical blind spots and to ensure a thorough ethical risk management or risk assessment. So here are the possible ethical risks that was identified. So we have the data breaches, unauthorized access, unfairness, and lack of transparency. So let's just talk a little bit on this. So when it comes to data breaches, what it meant is data is like names, age, date of birth, financial information like we mentioned earlier on, diagnostic reports, medical reports of patients, right? All these have a higher chance of being hacked during the manual entry process into the system portal or when sharing with hospitals, doctors, or the NGOs. And the other point that we are talking now about unauthorized access. So employees may have the tendency to peek into patients' data without obtaining permission during phone calls, WhatsApp messages, or email services. So when we talk about unfairness, patients may be treated unfairly based on their income or sickness. So basically, there will be some biasness when company is providing financial aid or healthcare services. When we talk about lack of transparency, if consent is not given, patients will not know how their data is being processed or shared with the hospitals, the doctors, and the NGOs. Now, this risk can be resolved by implementing strong security measures such as enabling encryption for all data. So what Pharma-Cure Research could do is to actually set up secure authentication protocols for their websites, for their emails. So these protocols would be like HTTPS, SFTP, SMTP to protect patient data during manual entry, sharing, or storage. Now, Pharmacare Research could also implement access restrictions and oversee employee activity to prevent unauthorized access during phone calls or during the WhatsApp messages and email services transfer. Now, the usage of two-factor authentication with regular change of password will also contribute to reducing the risk. So, in all, developing fair and transparent practices will also ensure unbiasedness when providing healthcare and financial assistance. So now let's look at expanding the ethical circle, which is tool number 3. So this tool actually encourages a holistic understanding of ethical problems by incorporating feedback from a wide range of key players, preventing a narrow or biased decision making. So The company's data handling practices will have an ethical impact on various key players. So this will include focusing on patients' trust, privacy, and well-being when ensuring good data handling practices. Healthcare providers will also need to have accurate data sharing to provide effective care and treatment. And when we talk about data sharing, we will need to align this to the NGO's mission and goals. And we also need to ensure that data sharing practices are in compliance with government healthcare departments, regulation and laws. And when we talk about this in Singapore, we would be talking about the PDPA Act. So we also would need to respect employees' roles and responsibilities when we are talking about how the patient data is being handled. All right, we can then expand the ethical circle, okay, by having the key players, emphasizing the key players' well-being and trust, having a strong data protection control. We can also establish a clear data sharing protocols as well as facilitating regular trainings for employees on ethical data handling. Now, we could also have regular review audits to ensure ethical considerations are on par. And last but not least, we will need to keep the circle open so that in case of any additional key players or a reduction in key players in the next few years to come. So now let's take a look at some of the recommendations we identified from the data governance framework. So good governance makes sure that data is accurate and reliable at all times. So this figure actually shows the data governance framework, which is actually a tool that was created to help organizations manage data in a consistent, reliable, and compliant manner. So let's now take a look at two of the components of the framework that we find most relevant for Pharma-Cure Research. Okay, so we have two recommendations here. So one of it is to set out clear rules and guidelines in terms of data collection, data storage, and data protection sharing. So with reference to component 3 of the data framework, um, that is the data rules and definitions. These guidelines should ensure the existence of data privacy. Sensitive information should only be shared with authorized individuals, and that the data is trustworthy and has not been tampered with. So what Pharma-Cure Research could do is to also to designate a chief data officer to oversee the whole data governance. Now, the next recommendation is to implement a standardized data collection and storage protocol. So this is in reference to component 6 of the data governance framework, which is the control mechanisms. So the company should replace all manual data collection and data entries with digital and automated systems. So this system should be able to incorporate data from all sources, such as the phone calls, WhatsApp messages, and emails with a strong security protocol. At the same time, it should be able to keep data consistent and up to date as well as providing quick access to accurate data. So this new system should make sure that there is standardized management of data. So to conclude, this report has highlighted the importance of prioritizing patient privacy and security when handling data. By implementing clear guidelines and transitioning to digital data collection and storage, Pharma-Cure Research can ensure data quality, privacy, and security. And by adopting ethical practices such as the ethical risk sweeping and expanding the ethical circle from the Macula Center's Tech Ethics Toolkit can also help to identify and mitigate potential risks. And with the data governance recommendations, the company can also ensure responsible data management and maintain patient trust. So that's all for my presentation today. Thank you.